We're in the octave of the Epiphany. I wanted to talk a little bit about the relics of the wise men, the shrine of the three kings. And so the shrine of the three kings is in Cologne Cathedral. This particular shrine that you're seeing the picture of was built in 1180. However, the relics of the kings of the Magi arrived much, much earlier. So let's go back into this history a little bit, because the modernist Jesuitical element in the church wants to diminish and equivocate and explain away, if you will, many of the monumental mysteries and miracles of the realities of our Catholic faith. And the idea that we didn't really know who they were, somehow this is all made up. Just because something is a legend does not mean it's false. Just because something is a myth does not mean it's false. And so that's a very important thing for us to get our head wrapped around, because part of what the modernist seeks to do is to rewrite history, rewrite tradition, cancel things that do have importance and do have significance. Valerie and I have had the opportunity to see this. It's a magnificent structure. It's quite large, actually. I wanted to give you some information about it. So it's a reliquary that was built to contain the relics of the three wise men. And it was built from 1180 to 1225. And it is a prime example of what's called Mozan art. Now, Mozan art is a regional style of art from Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. And it has elements of Romanesque architecture, stone carving, metalwork, manuscript illumination. All of these things had a very high level of development, and many of the illuminated manuscripts are very ornate manuscripts that were hand copied in the 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries are part of this Mozan art. And so it's a particular style, a lot of bas relief, a lot of detail, a lot of ornate things. And so you're seeing many figures. This is a gold-plated structure that is very, very large. It holds those relics of those three men. The shrine has gone through periods of restoration and damage, but it's never been totally compromised. The shrine has always been on display, but it wasn't until the 19th century when the relics themselves were exhibited to public display. They actually narrate the stories of the three Magi, the Virgin Mary, and the life of Christ. Very meticulous. So the relics of the Magi were originally brought to Constantinople by the Empress Helena, Constantine the Great's mother. Now, where did she get these? As you recall, many of the relics, the True Cross, many of these items were found by Helena, and Constantine spared no money in funding his mother's large expeditions to the Holy Land to find these religious sites, to build churches on their locations, etc. But the legend is that she went to India, and these were retrieved in India, the wise men having found their way further east to India after the Passion of the Christ, and Thomas the Apostle, Didymus, the doubting Thomas, went to India to spread the gospel. The story is that he passed through Persia and that area on the way to India, and these men, these wise men, followed him. This makes Melchior much advanced if you add 33 years to his already aged appearance at the Nativity. Suffice it to say that St. Helena tracked this down, these relics down, and in India, and there are accounts in India of this in fact happening. So they were brought to Milan in an ox cart, and they were given to Constantine in 314. 8 centuries later, in 1164, the Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa took the relics of the Magi from the church in Milan and gave them to the Bishop of Cologne, Reinald of Dassel. and he was the arch-chancellor of Italy. In 1164, Reinald transferred these relics to Cologne, where the shrine for the three kings were built. Their bones were wrapped in white silk and returned to the shrine. The relics have since attracted a constant stream of pilgrims to Cologne, and I can tell you that's true. When Valerie and I were there was a steady stream of, especially a lot of Middle Eastern Christians, Middle Eastern Catholics, Syrians, Coptics, etc., and Indian Catholics. This was a place for them to make pilgrimage. So you've got an unbroken chain. There's no mysterious, unaccounted for period of time for these relics. So there's very good reason to believe they are precisely what they say they are. The chapel of the Magi was off of the main part of the Cologne Cathedral, which is absolutely huge, until 1948. And then after 1948, this is up and behind the main altar. The parts of the shrine were designed by the goldsmith Nicholas of Verdun, who was very famous on his own. He began work on this in 1180, and it's completed in 1225. So this is a 45-year work. Around 1199, while it's about halfway done, King Otto IV gave 3 golden crowns purported to be made for the corpses, for the relics, as a present to the Cathedral of Cologne. Because of the importance of the shrine and the cathedral for later development of the city, the coat of arms of Cologne still shows these 3 crowns symbolizing the 3 kings. Otto IV of Brunswick, now he ascends to the throne with papal coronation in 1198, and then becomes the Holy Roman Emperor in 1209. And he donated and financed all of the materials that were needed to complete the shrine. On the shrine, he's depicted in the procession behind the Magi, and that's interesting because there are 4 kings, and the inscription labels him Otto Rex. Although he offered the 3 kings the gold crowns, he himself does not wear one in this depiction on the shrine. He wanted to be seen as in adoration, as a plain man joining the Magi in adoration of the Christ. The construction of the major portion of the cathedral that was begun in 1248 and went on for 630 years. This is monumental. It took 632 years to complete the cathedral. It began in 1248, and that it was built specifically to house these relics. It took 632 years to complete, and it's now the largest Gothic church in Northern Europe. And I can tell you, it is just absolutely magnificent, and it's absolutely huge. The last restoration of the shrine took place between 1961 and 1973. The shrine was removed and taken to the Vatican during the Second World War. It's been carefully preserved, and the relics are in good condition considering their history. The Renaissance collectors and valuers listed the shrine as one of the most valuable single repository of gems. On July the 20th, 1864, the shrine was opened, and it revealed the human remains and the inscriptions and tokens of Philip I, Archbishop Cologne. Now, an eyewitness reports in a special compartment of the shrine, there showed, along with remains of ancient, old, rotten, or molded bandages, sea silk, which is an extremely fine, rare, and valuable fabric, which is made from long, silky filaments. The byssus is used by a mussel to attach itself to the seabed. Sea silk was produced in the Mediterranean region from large marine mollusks, but the cloth produced from these filaments can be woven even more finely than silk and is extremely light. It's said that it was the most valuable fabric in all of the world. Now, incidentally, the shrine, the Veil of Montepello, is said to have been made of this same material. Besides pieces of aromatic resins and similar substances, numerous bones of three persons, which under the guidance of experts were assembled into nearly complete bodies, one in his early youth, the second in his early manhood, the third was aged. Two coins or tokens made of silver and only one side stricken or adjoined from the days of Philip, Archbishop. They displayed a cross accompanied by the sword of jurisdiction and the crozier or bishop's hook. The images of the three kings are located in the bottom middle of the sanctuary, offering gifts in this order according to the Gospel of Matthew: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, to Mary, and she's on the throne holding the infant Jesus. They're easily identified in the order they appear on the shrine as the golden figures Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. Melchior, shown on the shrine with a long beard, is the oldest of the three, representing the king of Persia, and gave the gift of gold. Balthazar, depicted as a middle-aged black man with African features on the shrine, represented the king of Arabia or Ethiopia. He's giving the gift of myrrh to the Christ child. Lastly, Caspar, the youngest of the three, is shown with a short beard on the shrine, and he was given the gift of frankincense to the Christ child. So there is some of the information that is historical, that is some actuality to the tradition and the interplay of the tradition. But to think back that this cathedral was built over a 632-year period specifically to house these relics, and to think and to ponder that the wise men accompanied St. Thomas and funded him into Italy to spread the news of the gospel. When have you come to realize an instance where you realize the depth and breadth and profundity and just the truth of the Catholic faith? The more you compress it and challenge it, the more true it becomes. When was that moment for you, or moments, when legends became realities, when myths became true stories?